Have you ever wondered why being nice isn't enough to earn a woman's respect? What if I told you that the very kindness you think will win her heart might actually be pushing her away? Today, we're diving into the ancient truth behind respect, the powerful supplication effect, and how you can command respect without begging or pretending. Stick around, because this could change how you approach every relationship in your life. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss these vital lessons on strength, honor, and genuine connection. Let's get started. What is supplication? In a quiet village, long before our modern times, there lived two young men, Thomas and Edward. Both sought the love of the baker's daughter, a woman known not only for her beauty but her sharp mind and strong will. Thomas believed that if he showed her unending kindness, always agreed with her, and showered her with gifts and attention, she would surely fall in love with him. He fetched water for her even before she asked. He offered compliments every hour. He never disagreed with a single opinion she had. Edward, on the other hand, approached differently. He was respectful, but he didn't bend his will to please. He helped when needed, but not as a strategy. He didn't seek to buy affection with favors. He was kind, but firm. He had opinions and voiced them. He worked diligently in the fields and made time for himself and his goals. He did not chase her. He lived his life. In time, the baker's daughter grew weary of Thomas. His constant offerings and self-deprecating manner began to feel suffocating. It wasn't that she disliked kindness, it was that she saw no strength behind his acts. Edward, however, earned her respect. He wasn't always agreeable, but he was genuine. He didn't try to win her approval with submission, and that authenticity, that quiet strength, attracted her more than all the flowers Thomas could carry. This, dear reader, is the essence of supplication. It is the act of lowering oneself to gain approval. Particularly from women, it's the mistaken belief that by being excessively nice, a man will earn love and respect. But niceness, when rooted in neediness, is not a virtue. It is a signal that a man values a woman's validation more than his own principles. In ancient times, warriors did not bow in desperation. They stood tall even in the presence of kings. They offered loyalty but not self-erasure. Women of strength were drawn to men who led with purpose, who had a backbone, who gave respect without groveling. Supplication, as it's seen today, often wears the mask of politeness. The man who won't say no, the man who apologizes for being male, the man who overextends, hoping to be chosen, the man who thinks love is something to be earned through compliance, rather than something offered freely in response to strength and authenticity. Understand this: women do not lose respect for kindness. They lose respect for weakness disguised as kindness, and that weakness, that begging for approval, is the death of attraction. There is a reason stories through the ages feature confident, principled men at the center of romantic pursuits. These men are not cruel, they are not bullies, but neither are they begging for crumbs. They lead, they decide, they protect, and when they give, it is from abundance, not insecurity. Today, many young men grow up being told that the way to a woman's heart is through self-erasure, that if they just try harder, if they sacrifice more, if they suppress their desires enough, they will be rewarded. But this is a modern distortion. A traditional man does not supplicate, he offers. He does not pander, he provides. So when we speak of not being nice, we are not advocating rudeness or callousness. We are saying, be kind, but do not be needy. Be generous, but do not be spineless. Hold your head high. Your value is not dependent on her response. A woman may like a pleasant man, but she will respect a grounded one. In the story of Thomas and Edward, it was not the grand gestures or endless agreement that won the baker's daughter. It was Edward's unwavering sense of self, his confidence in who he was, even when it didn't align with what she wanted to hear. That is the foundation of real respect. And without respect, no amount of niceness will build lasting affection. So remember, being agreeable is not the same as being admirable. And in the eyes of a woman worth winning, it's better to be respected than liked. Because where there is respect, love may grow. Where there is only supplication, love dies before it begins. Why supplication destroys respect? Let us journey again to that same village. Years passed, and Thomas remained unmarried. He wandered from one woman to another, repeating the same pattern, lavishing attention, yielding on every disagreement, trying to buy admiration with docility. Yet each time he was overlooked, not because he lacked good intentions, but because his spirit lacked weight. The women he courted could sense that his kindness was not rooted in strength, but in fear. There came a point when Thomas sat beside the village's old blacksmith, a man with broad shoulders and an even broader mind. The blacksmith had raised 4 children, had a devoted wife, and was respected by every man and woman alike. Thomas, in a moment of frustration, asked, "Why is it that no matter how kind I am, they don't choose me?" The blacksmith looked up from his anvil and said, "Because you do not stand. You kneel. And women, my boy, do not follow a man who cannot stand." This is the nature of supplication. It signals to others, not just women, that a man is unsure of his own worth. It is the quiet confession of insecurity. When a man gives too much too quickly, without it being earned or without boundaries, it creates imbalance. In the old ways, everything had balance. Giving had its measure. Respect was mutual, and love, true love, was never traded for favors. Women instinctively test men, not to be cruel, but to ensure that the man they choose has strength, emotional strength, moral strength, the strength to say no when needed, the strength to walk away when disrespected, the strength to hold firm in stormy waters. Supplication, by its nature, fails every test. When a woman disrespects a man who supplicates, he apologizes instead of asserting. When she grows cold, he clings instead of retreating. When she challenges him, he submits instead of standing his ground. And what does this breed? Not intimacy, not attraction, but contempt. Yes, contempt, that slow-burning fire that extinguishes respect and desire alike. The traditional man, one who honors himself, knows this well. He does not need to dominate, but he must not submit. He must live from principle, not permission. He must be good, but not at the cost of being true. Think of the ancient warrior who bows only to his gods, not to win affection. He earns the love of his people not by groveling, but by protecting, by working with honor, by standing tall. Too often, modern men confuse being liked with being respected. But a woman may like many men. She respects few. She may enjoy kindness, but she remembers resolve, and when she is tested by life's weight, it is not the agreeable man she will lean on, but the one she knows cannot be moved. So hear this warning: if you give everything for nothing, if you bend at every breeze, you will lose not only the woman, you will lose yourself. Respect is not won by avoiding offense. It is won by living with unshakable integrity, by being kind, yes, but kind in truth, not kind to manipulate, not kind to trade. In the next chapter, we'll explore what it really means to be a respectable man, one who leads with honor and strength, not approval seeking. For if you wish to be loved rightly, you must first be respected deeply, and that begins where supplication ends. How to command respect without force. After the conversation with the village blacksmith, Thomas found himself unable to rest. His mind was stirred, not with bitterness, but with the weight of truth. He realized that something within him had to change, not the way he spoke, not his outer manners, but the very structure of who he was. So he packed a simple bag, kissed his mother's forehead, and left the village before dawn. He walked through forests and valleys, across stone bridges and meadows, asking no one for direction, only following the whisper inside him that said, "Find someone who knows." After 3 days, he reached a solitary home set at the foot of a mountain, its stone chimney trailing smoke into the evening air. This was the house of Sir Aldrich, a retired knight who had once served under kings, led men into war, and raised 3 daughters under his own roof. He was not a man of boasts, but of presence. His beard was gray, his hands worn like leather, and his eyes steady. When Thomas knocked, the old knight opened the door, studied him for a moment, then silently stepped aside. They shared bread, cheese, and stew by the fire. When Thomas had finished his meal, he finally asked, "Sir, how do I make a woman respect me, without pretending, without force, without turning into someone I'm not?" Sir Aldrich set down his goblet and answered without hesitation. "You don't make anyone respect you, lad," he said. "You live in a way that leaves them no choice." Thomas was silent, as if struck by a bell whose echo kept ringing in his chest. "You see," Aldrich continued, "a respectable man does not chase after respect like a dog chasing carts. He doesn't demand it, shout for it, or prove himself with tricks. He becomes it. He earns it. It is not spoken, it is felt." Then he rose, gesturing for Thomas to follow him outside. They walked to the barn where 2 great oxen stood tethered. One stood tall and still, its breath calm, its eyes alert but peaceful. The other stamped its feet, tossing its head and snorting. "Which one leads the others?" the knight asked. Thomas pointed at the calm ox. "Why?" Aldrich asked again. "Because it seems sure of itself." Thomas answered. Aldrich nodded. "Exactly. That's the one they follow, not because it forces them, but because it doesn't need to. It knows its strength, The loud one, that's not confidence, that's fear trying to look brave. And in that moment, Thomas understood. To command respect, one must first command himself. Sir Aldrich began to teach him, not how to impress others, but how to build the kind of life that naturally draws respect. Not flashy speeches or bold gestures, but quiet strength. He taught Thomas to wake before the sun, not just to begin the day, but to master it. To finish every task he started. To say what he meant and mean what he said. He learned to chop wood, not because it was needed, but because it shaped his will. He trained with the sword, not to fight men, but to steady his mind. A man of value, Aldrich told him, does not need to raise his voice. He does not need to convince. He is what others feel when he enters a room. Thomas learned that respect is not gained through aggression, nor through endless kindness, but through something older, deeper, simpler. Consistency, speak less, mean more. A real man does not feel the need to explain himself endlessly. His word, when given, carries weight. Set boundaries and hold them. If someone crosses them, he does not rage like a boy. He corrects or he walks away. Live with purpose. A man must be led by something greater than comfort. Whether it is faith, a craft, a family, or a legacy, his life must aim at something. Stay composed. A man can have storms inside him, but he does not let them spill onto others. His peace is earned, not borrowed. Be capable of force, but keep it bridled. A man who cannot be dangerous is not peaceful, he is merely weak. A man who could destroy but chooses to protect, that man is trusted. That man is respected. Weeks passed. Thomas changed, not in words, but in habits. He laughed only when he meant it. He worked until the job was done. He looked others in the eye. And he stopped chasing approval like a starving dog. He became a man he could admire. Eventually, he returned to the village. The boy who had left was gone. In his place was a man who didn't seek to impress, but who could not be ignored. He greeted the women kindly, but briefly. He didn't linger. He had things to do. And the baker's daughter, now older and wiser, looked at him with new eyes, not of pity, but of quiet admiration. He hadn't demanded her attention. He hadn't begged for her affection. He had simply become someone who could be respected, and that, my friend, is the secret. Respect does not bloom in the shadow of neediness. It flowers in the light of strength, purpose, and honor. In the final part, we will explore why being respected leads to the deepest kind of love, the kind that lasts longer than charm, that grows stronger than passion, and that cannot be bought with flowers or flattery. Because true love, like true respect, is never taken. It is drawn toward the one who lives rightly. How to command respect. The seasons had changed by the time Thomas found himself standing in the village square once more. The trees had shed their leaves, and with them, so had he shed the skin of the man he once was. He was not louder, not more decorated, but there was a quiet edge to his presence, like a blade, polished not to dazzle, but to endure. He didn't need to tell anyone he had changed. It was in the way he walked, in the way he paused before speaking, in the way his eyes no longer searched for approval. The village men greeted him differently. The older ones nodded. The younger ones stood a little straighter. The women, too, looked with more care, not with the amusement of one watching a boy perform, but with the attention a woman gives to a man she can trust with weight. And it was in that stillness that Thomas began to understand the heart of respect. You do not ask for respect. You do not chase it. You become the sort of man whom others cannot help but regard with it. Sir Aldrich's teachings had not been lectures. They had been ways of life, and now, with the lessons etched into his daily walk, Thomas could finally see what most men missed. That respect is not given to the loud, nor the endlessly kind, but to the grounded. He remembered the knight's words. The world does not reward desperation. It leans toward those who can carry burdens without complaint, who speak the truth without cruelty, who stand without a crowd behind them. So what does it truly mean to command respect? It begins with self-respect. A man who has not mastered his own house, his thoughts, his emotions, his discipline, cannot expect others to submit theirs in his presence. Just as a captain must first know the ship before he commands a crew, a man must first be at peace within himself. Thomas, once quick to apologize for every fault, now apologized only when it mattered, when it was honest, when it came from conviction. He no longer gave out favors in the hope of being liked. He offered help when it was right, and only when it did not cost him his own dignity. To command respect, one must also honor time, his own and others. He rose early not to prove something, but because the day was a gift not to be wasted. He arrived on time. He finished what he started. He gave full attention when he listened. important. In a world of distractions, presence itself is a power. A respected man also does not speak unnecessarily. In the village, when others gossiped, he remained silent. When asked for counsel, he gave it plainly. His words were not many, but they carried weight, because he did not waste them. Perhaps most important of all, Thomas learned that to be respected, a man must carry responsibility. Not in show, but in truth. He fixed what was broken. He helped the old man lift his cart. He took care of his aging mother without complaint. He didn't boast about it, he simply did it. A man who carries weight without needing recognition for it becomes the pillar others lean on when storms come. The baker's daughter, now running her father's shop, noticed all this, but Thomas did not seek her gaze. And in that, she gave it freely. One morning, she brought him bread without being asked. Not as a gift for flattery, but as a gesture of regard. Not out of romance, but out of respect. This is the shift that happens when a man lives rightly. He no longer begs for connection. He becomes a center of gravity, where others feel safe, seen, and led, not by command, but by example. And yet, commanding respect does not mean being emotionless, nor does it mean being feared. The most respected men are not those who never show kindness, but those who are not ruled by it. They can be gentle, but they are never soft in spirit. They can be generous, but not at the expense of their own foundation. They can love deeply, but they do not lose themselves in the name of love. That is what Thomas had become, not a perfect man, but a principled one. And in time, without demanding it, the respect he once longed for began to flow to him. Not in dramatic gestures, but in small, steady moments. A hand clasped a little longer. A seat offered at the table. A child quieting when he spoke. A woman looking not with hunger, but with trust. Because respect is not won with noise, it is built in silence, day by day, deed by deed, and when you carry it rightly, you no longer have to ask for love. It finds you. In the final part, we will speak of why respect is the soil in which real love grows, and how the man who is respected, by others and by himself, is the one who will know love not just as a feeling, but as a legacy. Remember, respect is not something you demand or beg for. It is something you embody through strength, discipline, and integrity. When you stand firm in your values and live with purpose, respect naturally follows. And with respect comes genuine connection, deeper than any fleeting charm or empty kindness. Be the man who offers kindness from strength, not neediness. That is how you build lasting honor and love. If this message resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more timeless wisdom on becoming the man you're meant to be. Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, stay strong, stay honorable, and led with purpose.